Okay, top of Yud Gimel, 4 lines down. Amar Rafram Bar Papa, Amar Rav Chisda. Rafram Bar Papa says the name of Rav Chisda. Kol shehu mishum Faivel. Any fast which is because of mourning, for example, Kagoyin Tisha B'Av, or mourning the destruction of the base of Mikdash. V'avel, and an avel, that means a person mourning a relative that passed on. Bein b'chamin, bein b'tzainon. Aser bein b'chamin, bein b'tzainon. Okay? So you're aser to bathe in hot water and in cold water. No bathing at all. No washing. Kol shehu mishum tainug, but any fast that the purpose is just to refrain from added pleasure, from tainug, kegoyin Taanis tzibur, like these public fasts that were instituted because it wasn't raining, those asur b'tzainon, Taanis tzibur b'chamin asur b'tzainon mutter. There, hot water is going to be asur, but cold water is going to be mutter. Amar Rav Idi bar Oven. Rav Idi bar Oven says, Afana nami tanina. I have a raya to this. I have a proof to this because the Mishnah says, V'noyalinas hamerchatzois. Right? The Mishnah on the bottom of Yud Bey said that on the days, the second set of fasts, they closed the bathhouses. Now, the merchatz, usually base of merchatz, was hot water. So his proof is that since it says they closed the hot water, they closed the bathhouses of hot water, it must be that cold water is permissible. You're allowed to bathe in cold water. Amarlei Abayo, ve'ibit tzainon aser, and if tzainon would be also aser, seichrenes hanaharos mibayilei, what should it say? You should close up the rivers? Like there's no other way to say it. So what kind of raya is that? Amar Rav Shisha bereid Rav Idi. Rav Shisha bereid Rav Idi, the son of Rav Idi, said, Abba, my father, hachi kashale. This is what he meant to ask or to prove from the Mishnah. Michti. It says in the Mishnah, let's see. It says in the Mishnah, Asr b'rechitza, you're not allowed to bathe on those fast days. So why does it then have to say that you close the bathhouses? If it's Asr to bathe, then what is the Mishnah adding with that we lock the bathhouses? It must be the Mishnah trying to tell us that specifically bathing in hot water is usher, but in cold water is okay. From the fact that the Mishnah said a line which seems to be extra. Okay. So cold water is going to be mutter according to that. I'm sorry?
What is the halacha for
on the Taanis tzibur? The Taanis tzibur that we have is a little bit different because we have the
Taanis Esther, whatever.
Taanis Esther is very lenient, but like the fasts that we have that all revolve around the base of Mikdash, I'm not sure if halacha. Well, Tisha B'Av for sure it's aser. You're not allowed to bathe at all. I don't know. Not sure. Stick to cold water. It'll be okay. Lema misayei alei kol chayvei tfilos. Okay, lema misayei alei. Let's say we have a proof to this to Rav Chisda, right? We have a raya that kol chayvei, because it says kol chayvei tfilos tovlin kedarkon. Anybody who's obligated to go to the mikvah, he has a chiyuv to go to the mikvah for he or she, for whatever reason it might be. Tovlin kedarkon bein b'Tisha B'Av, bein b'Yom Kippur. He could even go to the mikvah on Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur if he's a chayvei tefillah. Okay. Now, b'mai, what's it talking about? What's this halacha, this Bryce or Mishnah talking about? B'mai, ilema b'chamin. If it's talking about where they could go in hot water, tefillah b'chamin mi'ika. Is there such a thing as a hot mikvah? Obviously, this wasn't today, right? Tefillah b'chamin mi'ika. Is there a mikvah with hot water? She'uvin inhu. If it's hot water, then it's mayim she'uvin. It's not rainwater. What?
I was thinking of the Raizel's mikvah.
Yeah, that's right. She'uvin inhu. Elolav b'tzainon. It must be talking about in cold water. V'chayvei tefillos in a shachrina loy. From that teaching, we see that only those who are chayiv to go to the mikvah can go in cold water, in regular natural mikvah of cold water, but everybody else is not allowed to go in cold water. Amar Rav Chana on Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur at least. Amar Rav Chana bar Ketina lo nitzracha elo lachami tveria. No, it's from that brayso you don't. The question was, it can't be talking about a hot mikvah, right? So the answer is no. You could have a natural mikvah, natural water, which is hot. For example, chamei tveria. Ihachi ema seifa. If so, look at the seifa. Amar Rav Chanina. Seifa must be of that brisa or Mishnah. Amar Rav Chanina Skana Kohanim. Rav Chanina Skana Kohanim. He was the assistant of the Skan Kohanim. Kedai hu beis Elokeinu la'abed alav tefillah pam achas b'shana. It's worthy. The destruction of the Beis Hamikdash deserves that you can forego your chiyuv of tefillah one day of the year for Tisha B'av. V'i amr b'tzainon mutter yirchatz. Right. So if you're allowed to go to a cold mikvah, so then what's he saying? What's he saying? That you should give up on going to the mikvah because we're mourning the Beis Hamikdash. Obviously, you're not allowed to go at all. So that's the Gemara's. That's the Gemara's question from that part of the brisa. Yirchatz b'tzainon. Amar Rav Papa says ba'asr d'lei shchiach tzainon. He said it on a city where there's no cold water. It must be a city where there's only chamei tveria. There's no cold water mikvah. Tashma. The Gemara now brings a raya from a brisa to that which Rav Chisda says. Kisha amru asr b'malacha. When we said in the Mishnah, in our Mishnah, that it's asr b'malacha, loy amru ella b'yoyim avo b'layla muter. You're only the isser of malacha, of doing malacha, is only in the day, but not at night, not the night before. This that we said you're not allowed to wear shoes, loy amru ella b'ir, is only in the city. If you're traveling, going on the road, mutter. Okay, it's that. How do you do it? When you're going out on the way, so then you put on the road, you put on your shoes. Nichnas la'ir, when you come into the city, then you take chaylets, you take them off. Continues this brisa here. When we said that it's asur b'rechitza to bathe, loy amru ela kol gufay. That's only your whole body. Aval panav yadav v'raglav mutter. Your hands, your face, and your feet, like part at a time, that is mutter. V'chein atamaytze b'menuda u'ba'avel. And the same halacha applies to a menuda, somebody who's excommunicated by Bezdin, u'ba'avel, and somebody who's mourning the loss of a relative. My lav akulu. This that we said v'chein atamaytze b'menuda v'avel, we assume that it's going on everything. That avel has the same din as where does this brisa start again? 1 second. Right. As a Taanis tzibur, it has the same din as an avel for everything. My lav akulu. It's going on all the things. Ubemai. What does the Bach say over here? Ubemai. Ileima. It takes out askinan. Okay. Ubemai. Ileima b'chamin. If it's talking about by hot water, that means that pun of yadav v'raglav, you're allowed to wash your hands, face, and feet on a Taanis tzibur, and so too in avel, because we're comparing it to everything, the same halacha to avel for everything. Panav yadav v'raglav misharu. Are you allowed to wash your hands, your face, your hands, and your feet when you're in avel? V'ha amar Rav Sheshes. Rav Sheshes says avel, somebody who's mourning, aser lahoishit etzboi b'chamin. He's not even allowed to put a finger in hot water. Elalav, it must be talking about b'tzainon, cold water. So the Gemara says no, it's not loy. Lo'olam b'chamin. It's talking about, you don't have a raya from there. Really, it's talking about lo'olam b'chamin, hot water. This that you're going to ask, that it's comparing everything from Taanis tzibur to menuda and avel, and we have a question by avel, you're not even put a finger in hot water. Asharakoi. The comparison to menuda and avel, to excommunicated person and avel, is not going on everything, the halachas of panav yadav v'raglav. It's going on everything else, other halachas, the other halachas that we mentioned in the brisa. Tashma. The Gemara brings another brisa. The Amar Rav Abba HaKoyen Mishum Rabbi Yosi HaKoyen. Rav Abba HaKoyen said in the name of Rabbi Yosi HaKoyen, Maise umesu banav shel Rabbi Yosi ben Rabbi Chanina. It so happened that the sons of Rabbi Yosi ben Rabbi Chanina died. The rachatz b'tzainon kol shiva, and all the 7 days of mourning of Shiva, he bathed in cold water. So what's going on over here? So the Gemara, right? We just said that the halacha doesn't apply to avil. That there's no heter. You can't bathe. So what does it mean?
How do you do it?
Right. So, and the Gemara, Hasam kishetekfuhu avelov. It's talking about where his avelos, his sons died not all at once. They died one after another, and the shiva or the avelos, it covered over each other, like it was an overlap.
Interlap.
Yeah, right. After a few days or after 6 or whatever, right away the next one died. So he was never able to have any relief from the isurim. What do you say?
Why does it say that someone called Shiva?
Kol Shiva, the next set maybe of 7, any of the days. I'm not sure.
During.
Okay, we changes the girsa. Okay. The Tanya.
So how can they bring a proof from an exceptional case?
No, so that's the answer. The answer is that's exceptional. Don't bring a proof from there.
Oh.
Don't bring a proof from there because that was exceptional. The Tanya, because we have a brisa which says that's the exception. It says takfuhu avelov ze achar ze. If somebody has avelos one after the other, hichbid saira, if his hair is getting too long or it's growing too long, make a batar. He can cut a little bit with a razor. And he can wash his garment with water. Excuse me. He could cut his hair with a knife, with a razor, but not with a scissor, which is the normal way to cut hair. So you have to do it a little bit with a shinoi. But you can do it because the Chazal were makel because it's too hard from one avelos to the next. And you can wash your clothing b'mayim with water, b'loy b'neser v'loy b'chol. You can't wash it with they used to use these chemicals. Neser, Rashi says, is karkahu, or even, earth or stone, ke'ein, shekayrin karyo, and neser is neser b'chol, derech l'chabis sheyislab. And it's a different substance that used to clean the clothing. So you can't use like detergent or that type of thing, but you can use water. So again, it's a shinoi. Amar Rava. Rava says, Avel mutter lirchaitz b'tzaidan kol shiva. So there's a different view here. Rava says that an Avel, somebody who's mourning, the whole shiva is allowed to bathe in cold water. Midi dehave abisra v'chamra. Just like he's allowed to eat meat and drink wine, he's allowed to bathe in cold water. In fact, the Gemara Meisvei, we challenge this from a brisa. It says in the brisa, Ein haboigeres rasha linavel es atzma b'mei evel aviha ha naira rasha. The boigeres, a boigeres is after she's 12 years old. She's already, like they say, kalamayed, right? She's ready worthy of getting married, and she doesn't want to look bad in people's eyes. People won't read her shidduchim if she doesn't look good. So if she's sitting shiva on her father, so then she shouldn't look. She shouldn't make herself look ugly. In other words, we'll see soon. We'll see soon what that means. But we're assuming at this point that it means. We'll see in the Gemara. My lab rechitza, that she could bathe, she could wash herself. Ubemai, with what? Ilema bechamin, with hot water. If you're going to say it's with hot water, Eina bageres rasha. V'ha amar Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda says, Avil asel haishid etzboi. Right, the Eina bageres rasha really indicates that there's a special heter for this bageres, for a teenage girl, but everybody else is usher. So the Gemara says, "What do you mean? How could she bathe in hot water? If we're referring to hot water?" Rav Chisda says, "Avil asher lahaishid etzboi bechamin." You can't even put your finger into hot water. Elolav b'tzayner. I must be talking about with cold water. So you have a raya here to Rava that an avel. Is mutter lirchaitz b'tzaynan kol shiva. She's allowed to bathe in cold water during shiva. Okay, elola b'tzaynan. So Gemara says, loy. No, it's not talking about bathing at all. Akichol upirchus. It's talking about like cosmetics. Kichol, they used to color their eyes, like some sort of makeup around the eyes. Apirchus is the hair, right? I guess you could comb her hair, braiding the hair, yeah. So she could make herself look good in those ways, but not with bathing, not with washing. Lema mesayeh alei. Let's say we have a proof to this. The Amar of Abba Hakayin Mishum Rabbi Yossi Hakayin. This is going to be familiar from Amman Aleph, but we're using this now as a proof to this. Rabbi Abba Hakayin says the name of Rabbi Yossi Hakayin. Maiseh umeisu banav shel Rabbi Yossi bar Chanina. The story happened when the sons of Rabbi Yossi bar Chanina died. V'rachatz b'tzaynan kol shiva, and he bathed in cold water all 7 days. Or, like Mendel said before, during the Shiva. Amri Hassam, over there we say, so you see that you could bathe in cold. It would be a riot to Rava. Amri Hassam b'shetakfuhu avelav. That is only because one went after the other, so he needed a relief. Zechar zeh. The Tanya takfu avelav zechar zeh hichbid sarai mekel the tar umechabis ksusa b'mayim. If somebody has one avelos after the next, he could, if his hair is getting too long, he cut it with a knife, and he could wash his clothes with water. Amar Rav Chisda says b'tar avelav b'misparayim. He could do it with a knife, but not with a scissor, because it's a shinoi. And also he could wash clothing with water, but not with anything with the other like washing detergents. Okay, this is added in. This wasn't mentioned before. I'm not sure what that is. What is that?
Stuff used for laundry.
What is it?
Stuff used for laundry.
Chemicals. Okay, another type of thing that they used to use to clean the clothing. Okay, shkoyach. Ika de Amri. Okay, so that was Rava and the proof to Rava. Ika de Amri, some say that Rava says a different opinion, not like we said before. Amar Ika de Amri, Amar Rava. Others say that Rava said, Avil Osir b'tzainan kol shiva. An Avil, somebody who's mourning, is not permitted to bathe even in cold water all 7 days. My shnami basav yain. So the question is, so before we said just like basav yain, now we're asking what about wine? Why is it any different than basav yain? It seems like an Avil is allowed to eat meat and wine. Hasam lefchuche pachte hu de avid. There, the meat and wine, Chazal allowed the Avil to eat so that he should be calmed a little bit. He shouldn't be, like he could, have a little bit of menuchas nefesh. But bathing, which is purely pleasure, that was not allowed. Let's say we have a proof to this, because it says, Eina bageres v'shol l'navel atmo. Excuse me. The bageres is not allowed to make herself look ugly. Ha naira rasha, but a naira younger, she's allowed to. B'mai, what's it talking about? Ilam b'chamin with hot water. If it's talking about with hot water, eina b'geres rasha v'homer of chisda avel asher l'hoyshet it's boy b'chamin. It can't be talking about hot water because we already said that an avel is not allowed to even put a finger in hot water. Elolah, but it must be talking about that the heter for a bageres to bathe is in cold water. Says the Gemara. So what? That would be a proof. So that would be a proof. What would be the proof? Because I think the proof here is because it's only a bageres and not everybody else. And here we're trying to prove to this Ika de Amri and Rava that they're not allowed to bathe, and Avil is not allowed to bathe even in cold water. And for the Gemara, loy akichol upirkos. It's talking about these cosmetics. Amrav Chisda. Zoisei meres Avil us. So from this that we just learned, we also learned from there, this could be the source. Avel aser b'techbaises kol shiva. An Avel is not allowed to wash their clothing all 7 days. During the shiva, they're not allowed to wash their clothing. This is what Rav Chisda says. V'hilchasa, and the halacha is, Avel aser lirchatz kol gufa. After all this discussion, Rav Chisda, Rava, another version of Rava. What's the halacha? Says, I guess this is Rav Chisda talking. Hilchasa is Avel aser lirchatz kol gufay. Avel is not allowed to wash his whole body. Bein b'chamin, bein b'tzainan. Whether it's hot water or cold water. Kol shiva, all shiva. Avo panav yada b'raglov b'chamin aser. If he's just washing his face, hands, and feet, hot water is aser. Tzainan mutter. Cold water is mutter. Avo losuch, to smear like some sort of oil or thing like that. Afilu kol shehu aser. Even a little bit is aser. V'im laveres hazuama. If it's something like deodorant or something like that, to take away, literally means like to take away the dirt, but I guess it means the person like to take away the smell. He doesn't have to. It's not a mitzvah to smell. It's just you're not allowed to have the pleasure of bathing. So laveres hazuama mutter. That's permitted. Start to Gemara Vayter. Different Gemara now. Sloisa de Taanisa heichi mad karinon. The davening of a fast day, like we say, we add in anenu by fast, right? Heichi med karinon. Where do we mention it? Ad berei Rabbi Yehuda lo Rabbi Yitzchak. Rabbi Yehuda said to Rabbi Yitzchak, berei, his son, v'darash. Oh, he was talking to him and he darshan, whatever he was teaching him.
For a walk.
Oh, he was going for a walk. It says, okay. 1 second. Let's see where. Okay. Yachid shekibel love Taanis. a yachid, we think that means an individual that was makabel a Taanis on himself. He accepted upon himself to fast. Mispalal shel Taanis. He was telling his son that he should daven a tefillah for the Taanis. Vehechan Amro. Where does he say it? Ben goyel l'roifei. Like we have it printed in our Sidurim. You say the tefillah between the bracha of goyel and roifei. Maskef lo Rav Yitzchak. Rav Yitzchak asks, "V'chein yachid, v'chi yachid kovei bracha li'atzmai." Does a yachid, does Chazal establish a special bracha just for a yachid? Elam Rav Yitzchak. Rav Yitzchak says b'shemei tefillah. Where do we say Aneinu? A yachid says it in shemei tefillah, like we do it. V'chein Rav Sheshes, and Rav Sheshes agrees with this. He also says b'shemei tefillah in the bracha of Shema Kaleinu. Meisvei, in fact, the Gemara from a Brisa, the question is going to be not right away. We'll see the question in a minute, but the question is, it says in a Brisa, Ein bein yachid l'tzibor. There's no difference between a yachid fasting or a tzibor fasting. Elo shezem ispal shmoine esrei, v'zem ispal tisha esrei. The yachid says 18 brachas, shmoine esrei, and the tzibor says 19 brachas. 90 brachas. Now, just to explain, Rashi points out over here that our Shmoyne Esrei already consists of 19. So it would mean 19 and 20, but we're calling it 18 and 19 here in the Gemara. So that's going to be the difference between a Yachid and a Tzibor. The Yachid who says the Aneinu in Shema Kaleinu, it's not a new bracha. It's just included in that bracha, so it's still 18. But the Tzibor, which we're assuming means the Shliach Tzibor, says it in between Goyel v'Raifa. He adds in a new bracha like we do it also. So then it's 19 bracha. It's an added bracha. So that's the only difference between a Yachid and a Tzibor. El Shazem Espal Shmoyne Esrei, V'zem Espal Tisha Esrei. My Yachid, says the Gemara. What's Yachid umay Tzibor? And what's Tzibor? Ilem a Yachid mamish v'Tzibor Shliach Tzibor. If it means an individual versus a Shliach Tzibor, the Chazan. So Hani Tisha Esrei, what do you talk about 19? What 19? Esrin v'arba havu. We already said, we know that a Shliach Tzibor on a fast day says 24 brachas, not 19 brachas. Elolav must be hachikamar. Ein bein yachid the kibel alav Taanis yachid leyachid shekibel alav Taanis tzibor. There's no difference when we said ein bein yachid letzibor. What we mean is we're talking about a yachid the whole time, but there's no difference. The only difference between this yachid, if he's makabel on himself a Taanis yachid, or he's makabel on himself a Taanis tzibor, the difference is going to be where he says anenu. 18 brachas, which would be in Shema Kaleinu, or 19 brachas where he says a separate bracha for anenu. So, ein ben yachid the kibel alav Taanis yachid leyachid shekibel alav Taanis tzibor. Elo shezem espal shmoyne esrei v'zem espal tisha esrei. And this one down is 19. Shmamina, what do you see from here? This is the question that we were getting to. Shmamina, Yachid kavei bracha la'atzmai. You see that even a Yachid, the Chazal established a special bracha just for a Yachid. So the question is on Rabbi Yitzchak. Rabbi Yitzchak says, Yachid kavei bracha la'atzmai, and Rabbi Yitzchak says, no, must be he puts anenu and shma keleinu. The Gemara asks here from this brisa, so we see from this whole Gemara that yes, Chazal do establish, because the way we have to explain the brisa is talking about a Yachid in both cases. One is if he's makabel Taanis Yachid, one is if he's makabel Taanis Tzibor. But you see, nonetheless, that Chazal were masakin a bracha, a special bracha, even just for a Yachid. So Shema Mina Yachid Kavei Bracha La'atzmei. And the Gemara Loi. La'olam Eim Alach Shliach Tzibor. What we mean by Tzibor is not a Yachid that was makabel a Taanis Tzibor. Rather, we mean a Shliach Tzibor. U'dekokas Yalach Shliach Tzibor Esron V'arba Matzli. You're going to ask me the question that we asked before, that a Shliach Tzibor says 24 brachas on a fast day, not 19. What are we going to say? What does the Bach say here? Hold on, Matzli. B'kamaisa. Okay, B'kamaisa. Gimel Taanis Rishaynis, or the Bach says B'kamaisa. Talking about the first set of fasts. In the first set of fasts, the Shliach Tzibor doesn't say 24 brachas. That's only in the second and third set of fasts that he says 24 brachas. But in the first set of fasts, like we mentioned in the previous Mishnah, it just says the regular 19 brachas. He adds anenu in. The leka esrim ba'arba. In fact, the Gemara of Eloi, are there not 24 brachas in the first set of fasts? V'ha, it says, ein bein katani, ein bein katani, ein bein gimel rishaynos, l'gimel emtsoyos. There's no difference between the first set of fasts and the middle set of fasts. Elo shebe'elu mutarin b'asiyas malacha, u'be'elu asurin b'asiyas malacha. It seems that the only difference between the first set of fasts and the middle set of fasts is asiyas malacha, doing malacha on the day of the fast. But halachav dalad zevazeh shavin, for the 24 brachas, it seems that it's the same. So how can you tell me that the first set of fasts, the Shliach Tzibor does not say the 24 brachas? After the Gemara, ton of a shire. We learned ein bain. There's no difference, only the work. But the shire, we left out some of the differences. My shire, the high shire. So the Gemara asks, the Gemara asks, if we left out some, we probably didn't only leave out one thing, which is the Chav Daled Brachos. Maybe we left out something else too. What else did we leave out? V'su, and furthermore asks the Gemara, v'ha ein bain katani. It makes sense to say that the Brisa or a Mishnah would leave out some differences. But if you say the lashon of ein bain means this is the only difference. There is no difference other than the following. And here we said the only difference is asiyas malacha. So it's a kasha to say that ton of a shire, that he left some out. Ela ton of the isuri kamayri betfilas like kamayri. When we said ein bain, the first set of fasts and the middle set of fasts, we weren't talking about the davening at all. We were only talking about isurim. The only difference between the first set of fasts and the middle is asiyas malacha with regard to isurim. Tefila like loy mayri. Tfilas loy mayri. The ibay same. Another answer would be the emtsiyasa nami loy maslich of daled. That where does the shliach tzibur say the 24 brachas? Not on the first one, and also not on the second set. Only in the third set, which is the 7 fasts, which we had in yesterday's Mishnah. So, ein bain applies appropriately. There's no difference between the first set of fasts and the second set of fasts, except for the siyas malacha and the chav daled brachas stay the same, because there's no chav daled brachas in either one. So it would make sense that it's just 19 brachas. V'loi, for the Gemara, are there no 24 brachas in the middle set? The Hatanya, we learned in a Brisa. Ein ben gimel shniyos l'sheva achraynos. There's no difference between the 3 middle ones to the 7 achraynos, the last set of fast. Ella, the only difference is shebe'elu masriin v'noyalin esachanuyos. In the seventh set of fast, in the last set, you blow shofar and you close the stores. But for everything else, they're the same. So that would include the 24 brachas too. So we can't say that the middle set doesn't have 24 brachas, because the last set certainly has 24 brachas. If we're going to say here also ton of a shire, the Tana left some out, some of the differences out. Ein bain katani. Again, we use the lashon of ein bain. There's no other differences. Ein bain katani. V'tizbara. Ein bain dafka. Oh, so the Gemara says, are you going to say that ein bain is dafka? Ein bain doesn't have to be specifically only these and nothing else, because v'hashayir teva, we left out the teva. Teva means that they used to bring the Aron Kodesh into the street in the 7 fasts, but not in the ones before, and we didn't mention that as one of the differences. So you see that even when it says ein bain, there still are things that we left out. The Gemara says, "Imishum teva lav shiurahu." You can't bring the Aryai that you leave, even with a lashon of ein bain. There's still some things that are left out. You can't bring a proof from the Aron Kodesh. That's not considered a shiura, something left out, because teva imishum teva lav shiurahu mila ditzina katani mila difarhesya like katani. Because we only mention things that we don't see publicly. The fact that you bring out the Aron Kodesh, everybody sees it. It's public, so you don't have to mention that. We only mention things that you don't see in the public. So you can't bring that wouldn't be considered one of the things that are left out. So you don't have a raya that with ein bain things are left out. We'll hold it here.